The explanation of this application will be divided into 2 video clips. The first video clip will be about how to implement the possibility to store color in CoreData and then use the colors you stored. The second video, which you can see after this one, will be about a dynamic tab view where we can display the items we first saved into CoreData. Depending on the amount of items, the tab view will change and you can quickly delete and add new tabs to the tab view. So let's begin with the first video, which is all about colors and CoreData. Therefore, we will open the persistent store, which is called like the app itself, which is in this case recipe app. There we can see 5 attributes. The 5th attribute is actually irrelevant. I simply didn't delete it. The first 4 attributes are the important ones, which are called alpha, blue, green and red. There we store for each attribute a float value, which we can then later use to create the color we just saved. Then we go to the persistence file. That is important that we import SwiftUI as well, so we can use a variable with a type of color. Then we simply build a struct which is called persistence controller. What is really important here is that for the container where we initialize the persistence store, that on the line container equals ns persistence container name recipe app, that you implement the name of the application you just created, and probably it will be a different name that I chose, which was recipe app, but the name you chose. You don't only need a struct, but also a preview, so your content view file actually works in the preview. Therefore, we simply construct a preview for the persistence controller on point 4. There we declare first 2 fixed values for result and view context, and then we declare the color. We simply give it a normal value, which is important to note here that the UI color is actually something we declared in another file, in the constant file, as an extension, and defines the type of a color. So to simply get the syntax of a UI color, we simply say UI color, brackets open, color, brackets open, point sRGB, because it's very simple to define an sRGB color, red, green and blue, values for that. And then for I in 0 to 5, which means we declare 5 normal items, we give the new item a simple value. So let new item equals item context view context. Then the timestamp is simply the date, and then we extract the red, green and blue value of the color we just created, which is called example color. After this, we go to the constant file where we can see the extension of UI color. There you can see how we create the extension UI color, which lets us split a color into different parts, which means components like the red, green, blue and alpha component of a color. You can simply ignore the item formatter, since it's not important for this tutorial or this application. Then we click on the content view file. There we first declare a color variable, which is called myColor, and we give it a standard value. Then for the view we declare vStack, where we put in everything. At the top of the vStack we have an hstack with a ColorPicker. The selection is myColor. That means whatever color we choose with the ColorPicker will become myColor, and after the hstack we display a recipe view. The recipe view is nothing else than a dynamic tab view, which I will explain in another video of mine. After the recipe view we see a button which enables us to add new items. After this we display a list with every item we just created, and what is interesting here is that we actually display rectangles and fill it with the colors we saved, because these are basically the items. We use the modifier fill and fill it with the UI color and the values which we just saved. So point fill color, then UI color, which we declared in the constant file, and then we give the values of red, green, blue and alpha, the values we stored as floats, so therefore we have to convert them in CG floats first, so the color can be properly displayed. And when we slide the rectangles from one side to the other, they can be deleted with the onDelete function. Then we scroll to the bottom of the document. There we have 3 functions. The first function I will explain is the private func save item. There we simply implement code we use for the other 2 functions add item and delete items. So we can simply call the function in the other 2 items when they are needed. The delete function is a simple delete function you will directly have if you create an application with CoreData. This will be automatically implemented if you, for example, use the Xcode version 13. The private func add item should look familiar to you since we programmed something similar in the file persistence. So we create a new item with item context view context. Then the timestamp of the item will be the date. Then the picked color, we use myColor, which is a variable which will be declared by the selection of the ColorPicker on the screen with a type of a UI color. And then we split the color we selected with the ColorPicker into its components red, blue, green, and alpha and store each one of them into CoreData. This is how you save color into CoreData. It's a little bit obnoxious because you have to split the data into 4 attributes to properly store them. But as you can see, it works even though you have to create 4 attributes for it. If you're excited to learn how I created the dynamic tab view, feel free to tag along and watch another video of mine where I will explain how to program the dynamic tab view, which will let you dynamically display the items you stored in CoreData.